Hello, everyone, and welcome. Thank you for joining me for the very first episode of Venus Temple Friday. Yay! This is something new that I'm doing. Every time I have tried to make a plan for this show, I really didn't like what I came up with, so I figured that it was time to stop procrastinating and just go for it. And so this is something that I want to do from now on every week. I'm thinking that it'll be pre-recorded from here on out, but this time I'm going live because the energy is here. It's a very powerful day. We are just ahead of the Aquarius new moon. There's a grand air trine going on in the sky right now. So this is very important. And there's a lot of other things going on right now. So for those of you who don't know me, I'm Dominique D. the founder of Holistic Yoni Care. And really, my mission is to empower women to really tap into those ancient temple arts, to develop a more intimate connection with your own body through practices in Yoni Care and getting to know who you are so that you can, live your best life, so that you can be healthier, happier, and be free. And so that's the essence of what I do. And this, again, is just an opportunity for me to come and connect more of the spiritual side of Yoni Care. So, on the earlier portion of the week, I'll be talking a little bit more about some type of physical practice or something dealing with physical health. On Venus Temple Fridays, this is where we dig into the spiritual side of things. So, getting to today, the topic is how to own your full feminine power and presence. Now, what better time than now? This is a huge emergence. I don't know if you can feel it, if you look in the headlines, of this divine feminine energy that is awakening on this planet. There is a rumbling, and that kind of righteous rage is coming out because women's voices have been suppressed. Our expression, our freedom has been suppressed for so very long, and maybe sometimes even what we thought was liberating was just a disguised form of oppression that was either self-imposed or us playing into the hands of the forces and the powers that be. This is a time, however, where we are being called to take a really honest look at ourselves, our past, the people who we have brought this far with us in our life, who's in our circle, and where we're headed, and say, does this make sense? Is this a true reflection of who I am? And am I truly living in my power? Do I even know what power is? What is my relationship to power? And so this conversation tonight is really going to be to just tap us into our own source of power, because each and every one of us is an individualized reflection of the creative life force that pulses through this whole universe. And so there's no reason for us to feel disempowered or disconnected based on someone else's ideas of what we should be doing or how far we can go, right? So before we get too fired up, I want to take a moment, since there's so much, as I said, there's a grand air trine, meaning there are three prominent planets, if you will, in air signs right now. And so that can bring us into the mind a lot. Conversation is all over the place. The news is blowing up. So this is a time where we really want to take a moment to settle in and ground. So wherever you are right now, whether you're live or on the replay, just take a moment to place your feet flat on the floor. Let your hands just fall naturally in your lap, palms up or down. It's up to you. If you want, you can let your eyes come to a close. And I want you to just take a moment to check in with yourself and just focus on your breathing. Breathe normally, not trying to force anything. Just becoming aware of your breath. And now let's take in a really deep cleansing breath. So breathing in through the nose, allowing the belly to fully expand, and let it out with a sigh. And I want to take in another big breath, but as we do this more consciously, I want you to first allow your breath to flow into the bottom of your belly and slowly let the air fill up and expand your chest, kind of like a giant bag, and hold it there for a couple seconds. And then allow the air to come out again with a sigh. So I was talking, let's take that breath together if you haven't already. Holding at the top. Let it out with a sigh. And as you exhale, just letting go of anything that may be weighing on you so that you can be fully present in this moment as we connect. And as you continue breathing normally, I want you to just think about what a blessing it is simply to be able to share this moment, to breathe, for your lungs to pull in the breath of life and to be able to nourish yourself in this way. Of all the things that we could get hung up over, the fact that we are here in this moment is truly a blessing. And so being grounded in the reality of what is good in our lives right now is the biggest key for us to navigate through these uncertain times. So now that we've had a moment to just kind of sink in with the breath, to breathe, I want to invite you at this time, if there's anybody that you think might benefit from this conversation, any women in your network, whether you think they're into this stuff or not, go ahead and share this out to them. Share this on your social media. Give this video a like because this will help more people to hear this message. Also, make sure that you're subscribed to my channel and that you click the notifications bell so that you'll be notified every time that we have a Venus Temple Friday, and also so that you can be aware of the other videos that I put out, because I'll be talking a lot about Yoni care and pretty much beautifying yourself from the inside out. So I'll be getting into skincare, all those good things. But bringing it back to tonight's topic, owning your full feminine power and presence. Where I want to start is with awareness. And by that, I mean, what is your connection, your relationship with the word feminine, with the feminine, womanliness, femininity? I want you to just think about that for a minute. What does it mean to be feminine? This is something that I took myself through earlier this year because I didn't think I had too many beliefs about femininity. I thought I had maybe two or three. Growing up, I was more of a tomboy. I wouldn't consider myself to have been a very girly girl or feminine, right? And these girly is one thing I associated with femininity. And so if you had asked me, probably even up to a couple years ago, would you consider yourself a feminine woman? I would have said, not really. I don't wear a lot of makeup. I'm not this, I'm not that. I don't do all these things. All of these behaviors and things outside of me. And I didn't realize just how many beliefs I had about femininity until I took some time to go into my journal and just list them all out. And so I invite you to also do this practice when you get some time. Take out a pen and paper, regardless of what you might think you believe in your head, and actually write. You'd be shocked at how many beliefs might actually be in there that you aren't aware of. So becoming aware of just your relationship to the feminine in terms of your beliefs about femininity. And to take things a layer deeper, you can think about your relationship to those that represent the feminine in your life, perhaps your mother, female caregivers, sisters, cousins, daughters, even. Friends, colleagues, female authority figures, maybe a boss at work or teacher, a mentor. I've had the experience. I used to always say back in the day that I got along with men a lot better than I did with women. And most of the other girls that I knew and women as I grew older kind of said the same thing. And so it got me thinking, what is that? And there's lots of different things that we can use to explain that. At the end of the day, there's a disconnect there between where we are and our relationship with the feminine, regardless of what our actual, relationships are in, in life. But that is definitely reflected in that. And so I invite you to examine your beliefs about femininity. What does it mean to want to be womanly or to be a feminine person? What is your connection to the feminine, and how is that echoed in your actual relationships and your level of comfort and your level of closeness? Do you have a lot of female acquaintances but nobody to really call when you're going through something and you need that deep sisterhood type of connection to just talk to somebody? Do you have that kind of relationship with other women? Or is it more, kind of light and diplomatic, but you don't really go deep? So that's another thing. And there's no judgment here. This is about awareness, right? Looking at our connection to feminine energy. And so as you begin to explore these connections to the feminine, I want you to notice, well, also what's coming up. It's also good to do a body scan. So when you're journaling about things like this, when you're writing, especially if you don't have a good relationship, let's say with your mother, that's a big one, right? That affects your ability to connect with feminine energy in all expressions of life, right? Not just other women, but anything that represents femininity that will show up in some way or another. And so it's important to do a body scan. And what I mean by that is check in with, how do you feel in your body? If you scanned all the way from head to toe, is there like a tightness? Are you a little bit tense here? Or are you more tense in your chest? Are your shoulders tensed up? Are you feeling tenseness in your hips? These are things, are buzzing, tingling, warmth. Are you sweating somewhere all of a sudden? These are indications. The body tells us what is really going on subconsciously. So, this is all about awareness of our connection with the feminine. And so, the first step to being able to own your full feminine power and presence is to get clear about where you stand in terms of your relationship to the feminine. And once you've done that, you can also, compare that to the divine masculine, right? What is your relationship to the masculine? What do you think about, manliness? These are great awareness exercises so that we can see, how balanced are we? Are we operating more in our masculine, or are we operating more in our feminine? Excuse me. And so once you have this awareness, then it's important to look at desire. So then what is your relationship with desire? How comfortable with you are you with, number one, expressing your desires first to yourself, like being honest about what you really want, not what you think you should want or what others think you should want, but what you really want, regardless of what emotions or taboos even may come up around that. Being able to express those things to yourself, being able to express your desires to others, especially if you are in an intimate relationship, being able to express your desire to your partner. And this could be any desires. This could be what you want to do with your life, your career. Maybe you want to change something. Maybe you're a parent. Maybe you have sexual desires, new things you want to try, or things you want to experience. Whatever. Desire. How comfortable are you with expressing those desires and even acknowledging that they are valid to yourself before you even get to that point? And so, coming from that place of becoming aware of where we are in our connection to feminine energy, how we deal with desire, and if there are things coming up, when you think about what you really want, how do you feel about that? Are you feeling tense again? That body scan I told you about. Are you feeling shame around any of your desires? Like, I want this, but I shouldn't want that because it's bad, or because it's wrong, or because it's not acceptable, or because it's unladylike, or whatever, right? Becoming aware of these things. So, this awareness and desire, you go back and you go forth. Desire is huge. And the reason why I'm really going slow through this conversation about owning feminine power and presence is because this process is so cumulative. Awareness is probably about 95% of our work. And then for us to embody things and to move forward and empower ourselves, that part is actually sometimes a little bit easier. It's becoming aware and getting really down to the nitty gritty and facing things that are in that shadow aspect of us, where It can be challenging to do that. And so a lot of our work begins here. And so you're now becoming aware of your relationship to the feminine. You're tapping into your desire and seeing how well are you allowing your desires to come to fruition? Desire is important also because it taps us into our yoni, our creative power, our sexual energy is very apparent in desire. When you think of something that you really want, there's a creative force in you that wants to manifest that. So desires are not just mundane things. I'm not talking about just wanting, even if it was desire for a new wardrobe. Maybe that new wardrobe allows you to express a part of your personality in a more open and robust and colorful way. So it always goes deeper. Desire is actually very important. And it's honestly the number one thing that we suppress within ourselves and allow others to suppress within us. It could be through religion, philosophy, it could be through rules, regulations, a lot of times through abuse, through violence, suppressing our desires, whether we're doing that to ourselves or other people are doing that, or maybe it comes to a point where we're not aware, because if you've had a lot of suppression, let's say in childhood, and you're now an adult, you might be replaying out a role that was enforced on you when you were younger. All of this suppression causes us to live completely out of alignment with who we are. We could literally create a career, a relationship, we could go to college and study something. We could build an entire life around a desire that has nothing to do with who we are. And it sounds extreme, but it is very, very common to find yourself maybe, mid 30s or so, or maybe perhaps a little earlier down the road, like, what the hell am I doing? How did I even get here? I don't like these people. I don't like this life. I don't like what I do. I don't like where I'm at. I want to break away from this desire. You cannot suppress your desires permanently. They can be suppressed for a while, but they'll come out in one way or another. And I want to talk really quickly before we move on to the next segment of this about a divine feminine archetype that kind of talks about suppressed desire, and that is Lilith. So, Lilith, really quickly, was said to be Adam's first wife. Adam and Lilith were created equally on the same keel, but for some reason, Adam wanted to be dominant and he wanted Lilith to submit to him. And Lilith said, no, I'm not submitting to you. Like, we are equals. We're gonna do this. I want this to be equal. And Adam wasn't happy with that. So Lilith said, deuces, I'm out. And she left. And so Adam was there alone and he wanted his female counterpart back. So he asked God to bring Lilith back. So God sent all the angels to go find Lilith. And she said, no, I'm not going to come back and be subservient to this person, this being who is my equal. I will not. And so she decided to be off in the wild. And she represents this wild, um, instinctual feminine nature that is within every single person on this planet. And the story goes on that Adam eventually gets Eve, which is created from his rib. So she tends to be this archetype of a woman who is more agreeable and who is more surrendered, more quote unquote feminine, right? What society would associate with femininity. Whereas Lilith got demonized, and there were all these stories about how she would come after your children, and she turned into a succubus that would hunt or haunt men at night and harness their sexual energy and all of this craziness. And you can read about that. Lilith is written about in some of the ancient Sumerian writings. You can also find a little bit about her. Like, there's echoes of it in the Bible. She's referred to sometimes as a screech owl. And also in the Jewish tradition, there's a lot about Lilith. And so in astrology, there's actually a point, which is the farthest point of the moon's orbit. So the moon orbits the earth, but it's the farthest point of the moon's orbit. way off in the darkness. It's the shadow side of the feminine. And it's wild, it's raw, it's instinctual, and it is unfiltered. And it is connected to this idea of rage, right? Suppressed rage. And that rage, when this point in your natal chart is triggered, can come out as righteous rage, where you use that in a way that is aligned with who you are and aligned with your purpose. It's purposeful. Sometimes you need a little rage to get things going, right? Or to get justice, or to protect yourself, right? Or to destroy things that are destructive to you, so that you can move forward in your path of health and liberation and freedom. And the flip side to that rage is when we suppress desire. It is said when this point is triggered, that rage can come out in ways that are destructive even to us. It can be self-destructive and destructive to others. It's just pure rage. It's like fire. It's going everywhere. And so this archetype of Lilith is very important, and something I wanted to highlight at this time, because we do have a full moon this coming Sunday, the 22nd, in Aquarius. And at the midpoint between the sun and the moon, right? The sun and the moon are opposite one another, but there's this thing called a T square, right? At the midpoint, it's like a point of tension between the sun and the moon. Black moon Lilith is there. And so at this time, it's interesting that the collective feminine shadow is being illuminated. If you're paying attention there, to the news right now, there's a lot being brought to the light around, women that have women's voices being suppressed, crimes, abuses towards women. And that's on a collective level. But I invite you to also look in your own life at where your suppressed desire, right? Your suppressed voice, your suppressed creativity, the natural urge, that instinctual part of you that knows what to do, where that has been suppressed. And if you want to literally look in your natal chart, just find Black Moon Lilith in your natal chart. Right now, in the sky, Black Moon Lilith is sitting in Gemini, the constellation of Gemini. But you can also look in your own natal chart and see where Black Moon Lilith sits. And so think about the story of this archetype, how this ties to desire, suppressed desire, and where in your life right now you are sensing this emergence of rage, righteous rage, or maybe just rage, And it doesn't have to be some massive earth shattering event happening in your life right now. But where is your instinctual nature really coming up at this time? Where are you feeling most triggered? Where are you feeling where you've been suppressed? And this is a point where it's time for you to step fully into your power. So we talked about awareness when we began this, coming aware of your connection to the feminine, your idea of what the feminine even is, what femininity even means to you, and then how you are relating to that through your relationships, especially with women, and especially with the women closest to you, like in your biological family. And then we talked about desire, right? Looking at how desire manifests in the world, how that taps you into the cosmic womb of creation. How desire is almost like an instinctual, um, it kind of illuminates your path through life. Whenever you feel lost and you're not really sure what's the best next step for me, you can always go back to your desires, and ultimately that will guide you back to your truth, which is why it's so destructive when we suppress desire. And desire in any way, when we suppress desire, and I'm not saying you have to be completely unhinged and overindulge in everything with no filter. No, I'm talking about that core deep desire of something that wants to be expressed through you. When we suppress those things, it actually can channel into rage. But when we allow that to come through in a healthy, natural way, we can actually use that rage to stand in our power. and to make decisions, sometimes hard decisions. We can face our fears and face those things about us, you know. Maybe you were told that you're a very angry person, or you're always snappy, or you're sensitive, or you have a bad attitude, or all these shadow qualities, right? Even shame. If there's been things that have made you feel small and that have made you feel powerless, things that have caused shame in your life, when we're able to look that in the eye, then we can use that righteous rage to make decisions that take us in the direction of our destiny. And so that brings us to empowerment. So we talked about awareness, desire, now empowerment. How do we find our center of power, right? How do we do this? Well, for one, it's very important to notice how you feel when you are triggered. And triggered doesn't have to be a massive emotional blow up. But when you hear something and it just bothers you and you just can't let it go, or you have like a visceral response to it, all of these are indications of when you are triggered. And that is a clue into something that's tapping. It's like tapping on a glass door between you and that full explosion of your power. Your power is also that thing you feel when you have been so frustrated that you could literally throw something at someone. That level of power is what I'm talking about. And when we are conscious of where we are, what our path is, and we are bold enough to really own our desires. You don't have to know how to materialize all of them right now. You don't have to take a bunch of actions, but just being honest with what they are and making a commitment to yourself, that's when you start to actually center into your power. And so one of the main ways to secure your foundation of power is boundaries, right? So this is why we started with awareness. How can you set boundaries in your life if you don't even know how you want to express yourself, or what power even means to you? So, setting boundaries around your time, around your energy, is very important, and also with your money. You know, um, this is a time where we are being called to take a really good look at what's not working anymore. It doesn't matter, if it's even if you've had family members and it's been difficult, the relationship's toxic, it's not working, and you feel this sense of duty because it's blood, right? This is a time where we have to realize that we are in a whole new world. And all of the things that have carried us up to this very moment, not every last one of them is still serving our highest good. And that's just the truth. And there are times in life where you have to draw hard lines in the sand. And there are other times where you can draw a dotted line and make some rules of engagement to still keep things in your life, but be very adamant and clear about how you want to engage with them. But I would be lying if I said that I don't see a huge divide. And this is on many levels of the collective. People are divided on their politics, if that's what you choose to do. People are divided in their belief systems. People are divided in terms of their emotional understanding of how things should be versus how they are. But the biggest division that I see right now is between our idea of how things should be and the reality on the ground of how they actually are. And it doesn't help that we have all of these voices around us, the media, you know, people in the community. Everyone is just chattering at a mile a minute right now and pouring in all their ideas on how things should be. But at the end of the day, we are still grounded on this earth. And if you look around and pay attention to what is happening, what do you see in your community personally, not what you hear? What do you see? What are you personally experiencing? What are your personal desires? And how is fear at this time encroaching on that? And how is fear vying for your attention? Maybe attempting to pull and sway you to suppress your desires, reroute them, or put them on a shelf for later. And so I'm not telling you what to think. I am just talking about owning your full feminine power and presence. And one of the most important things that we have to get beyond is fear, because fear is it's real. The fear itself is real, but what the fear represents is never real. We're either fearful of something that might happen in the future, or we're afraid of something from the past, but in the moment, the on the ground reality, this is what it is. And so, as Glennon Doyle said in her book Untamed, I think the quote was, "I can do hard things." And sometimes I say that out loud because we do need to remind ourselves of that. I can do hard things. And sometimes life calls for that. But when you are tapped into your center of desire, and when you're honest with yourself about who you are, what you want, what you stand for, and what you don't, I don't care how much people guilt you, try to bribe you, or whatever. When you live according to your own value system, values, right? The things that you are willing to fight, die, that the things you stand for, then you are content. And your joy comes from the source of life, not from other people's approval. Other people's approval has gotten women in more trouble than I could ever even quantify in this brief conversation. So we talked about being aware of your beliefs around femininity, around feminine energy. We talked about desire, right? Being honest about what your desires are, being willing to express those to yourself, regardless of any taboos or fears or limitations that other people have placed on you or that you've encountered in life. Just being straight up honest about, hey, this is what I want. Don't have to act on it, but I do need to be honest with myself about this is what I want, and that's cool. And then going a step further to express those desires, right? And that could be just, especially in the context of intimate partnerships. In your relationships, whether it's with family members, spouse, kids, whatever, it's very important to express your desires. Otherwise, people won't have any grounds upon which to know how to even treat you or engage with you. So it's not bougie, it's not needy. Expressing your desires is a form of you standing in your power, owning your power, and practicing building that muscle of being empowered. So the third step of empowerment, before I move on to the fourth, is what is your relationship to power? Think about times in your life where you have had a direct encounter with power, whether that be in the form of an authority figure, maybe a leader, a religious leader, a teacher, mentor, a parent, an older family member, a political figure. What is your experience? I'll say your experience with power. And then what is your relationship with power? Have you dealt with a lot of times where you've entered power struggles, where someone was trying to take your power and you had to fight to keep your power? Have you felt like your power was taken away? Have you felt like you've had to give away your power in order to survive? Whether that was social survival or physical survival or emotional survival, right? And looking at what is your relationship to power, because sometimes if we've had a broken relationship or a tumultuous relationship with power, if we've had people other people overpower or take, exert force or take our power away in some shape or form, subconsciously, right? When we're in the clear, when we're not in harm's way, we can easily walk away from our own power because the thought of power itself is repulsive. And this might not be a conscious thing. You might be, you could, in my case, I dealt with this where I felt like I'm empowered. I love the idea of being empowered and empowerment. Yes. And I spent a lot of time running from my power. The thought of me being a powerful woman scared the hell out of me. And admitting that to myself was very difficult because it made me feel weak. It made me feel defeated. And once I got over that thought process, it was interesting that it triggered those thoughts, right? Then I saw, okay, there's a history of why I felt powerless and why my response to feeling powerless was to criticize myself. Once we bring awareness and shine a light on something, it can't hide in the dark anymore. So it's not a problem anymore. It's not a problem because the darkness, the shadow does not have power over you. Once you shine the light of awareness on it, this is why awareness is the first key to your power. So once we examine our relationship to power, then we can say, okay, you know what? I like the idea of being in control and being an empowered woman. But I have a fear of power because of XYZ. When you write these things out, maybe talk them out, whatever your form of communication is, once you look at it, sometimes it's as simple as that. You can get over it. Other times, you'll know where your work begins at, as opposed to reading about, as a segue here, I surveyed a large group of women recently, and when asked what the top subject of study was, right? Was it personal growth type stuff, spiritual empowerment? Was it more learning about money and career and how to get your money right? Was it about health and wellness? Was it about sex and sacred sexuality and tantra, that type of thing? The bulk of the women, right? Over 90% of them said that when they're on their own leisure time, reading and studying and gathering knowledge, it's about spiritual empowerment and personal growth. And out of that same group of women, more of them than not said that one of the things that was bothering them was that they didn't feel like they made enough money, right? And so you might be wondering, okay, what does this have to do with anything? Well, this has a lot to do with what I said about being out of touch with reality. The spiritual movement has boomed ever since 2012, right? When the we heard about the Mayan calendar and this global awakening that everyone talked about. Then everyone got into crystals and yoga and new thought and affirmations and manifesting and all of this stuff, right? Which is great. All of these can be supportive. However, we've gotten so far off into our heads that many of us have lost touch with the on the ground reality. You can say affirmations all day, but if you don't have enough money to pay your bills, life is not going to go so well for you, right? And so these things that remind us of our humanity before we get up to the higher chakras of being spiritual, the things that tap us back into our survival instincts, that Lilith archetype, that is of crucial importance. And our relationship to power is very important to examine because we have to be able to secure the lower chakras, right? Our root chakra, dealing with survival and groundedness, being able to just make sure that you are secure and stable. Our sacral chakra, which is our ability to make those intimate connections and to create and express ourselves, but also to form an identity, who we are. The solar plexus, which is our power center, our ability to feel confident, to feel joy, to have a good belly laugh, but to also have a sense of purpose and focus and directness in the world. Then we get up into the heart, right? Where we expand and bring in other people. This is where we connect with other people in relationships and love and, you know, but the majority of us are so focused on cultivating spiritual empowerment, personal growth, that I'm getting the sense that we need to tap back into our roots, to tap back into those things that affect our day-to-day reality on the ground. So many people are disconnected from themselves right now. We're all squabbling and arguing over a bunch of politics, principles, and stuff. These are all ideas. At the end of the day, we are a community of people on the ground. And I'm in the United States. So here, I'm just going to speak to in the United States, we live on one giant landmass together, period. That is the factual reality. Regardless of what our principles are, we all need food. We all need water. We all need things to work so people can live and let live. And so when it comes to our ability to own our power, we need to be connected to those lower chakras, to the ability to own our desires, so that we can have a sense of worth and value. This also affects our money. So we talked about awareness. We talked about desire. We talked about empowerment. The next phase is embodiment, because we could sit here and talk about this all day, but how do we take all of this, all of these ideas, right? All of this awareness. Now, okay, I know what femininity means to me. I know what I desire, and I know what my fears are. I know what I'm maybe running from in my life and what's holding me back. And I understand my connection to power. Maybe why I've been running from power, but telling myself that I am empowered based on these spiritual ideologies that sound good, but on the ground reality shows that if I don't feel like I'm in a secure relationship, or if I don't feel secure in my relationships, if I don't feel secure in my finances, in my career, if I don't feel secure in my own body, then that's not empowered living. If I don't feel healthy, that's not empowered living. So I have some work to do when it comes to the real on the ground meaning of empowerment. And this is where we get into embodiment. So how do we embody all of this awareness and all of this information? And so one of the most powerful ways that I found to awaken this entire conversation is Yoni care. This is why I started holistic Yoni care, because it was through working with my own Yoni and developing that connection with myself. There's something so intimate and so vulnerable about even having a conversation, even saying the word Yoni. It is so sacred. And so, Yoni, womb work, right? When we do this, it really centers us into our primal feminine essence. And the way that expresses is going to be different for each and every one of us. And that is the beauty of life. And so, one way to embody this information is to start a holistic Yoni care practice. And it can be as simple as saying, you know what, when I wake up in the morning, I'm going to take a few minutes to put my hands over my Yoni and breathe and just center my awareness there and connect. Your Yoni is, think of it as a portal. What if you consider that your Yoni is literally a portal, a cosmic gateway that is tapped into the primordial feminine energy, the life force all over this universe? Would you wake up and just brush your teeth and run out the house? I mean, no, like you would take time to connect. What an important aspect of who we are. And so taking time to build a connection with yourself through a holistic Yoni care practice, holistic meaning body, mind, and emotional, spiritual, all of it. And so breathing, placing your hands over your Yoni, doing Yoni yoga. I provide certified crystal Yoni eggs, And I like the yoni egg because not only do you have the properties of the different crystals, which that's an extra layer, but is more importantly is the actual stone. It gives you a way to have a practice that is very spiritual with a physical component. And so I think working with a yoni egg is um, one of the easiest ways to start a yoni care practice that is holistic, because you have a tangible representation of a greater cosmic principle when you are using your pelvic floor muscles to squeeze your yoni egg. And even if, for many of us, this is not something that happens overnight, right? Because most of us, our pelvic floor is weak. And so we have to strengthen it. And the yoni egg gives you an opportunity to do that. But as you strengthen your pelvic floor reflects your boundaries. It really does. There's a relationship between your pelvic floor muscle strength, right? And the way that your boundaries show up in life, the way that you express those boundaries. There's some kind of connection there. So this is one of those ways where through physically strengthening that most vulnerable, the doorway to that cosmic portal of ours, our yoni, we are actually helping to strengthen the emotions. Well, I don't want to say strengthen the emotions, but to bring confidence into the way that we express our emotions and experience them in our body, to give us more mastery over who we are, so that when we are triggered, we don't try and say, well, you know what, I don't want to overly emotionally react because everybody's going to think I'm crazy. No, when you're triggered, that's your Lilith. How can you express your righteous rage? Is there something that you need to say? Do you need to call somebody out? Or maybe you need to draw a boundary. That might be leaving or saying, I don't want to be a part of this anymore. Or it could just simply be some type of health practice. It depends on the situation. But when we enter a situation where our desire is triggered, triggered is a key word that taps you into some type of desire. There's some type of desire attached to that. And through our yoni care practice, we build a better awareness of what's going on. Intuitively, we're more connected. There's so much information that I pick up intuitively. It blows my mind. I thought I was intuitive before I started my yoni care practice. It's crazy. Like, I will get a full flash of the whole situation within 2 seconds of hearing about something, and about a day later, the whole thing is exactly as I saw it. I mean, you are so powerful. You are deeply intuitive. It is not just one person has these certain gifts. No, this is yoni power, deep intuition that tells you, don't go there. That person is not healthy for you. Go over here. Try this. That's not what you really want. This is what you really want. When we are able to cultivate a holistic yoni care practice, it taps us into that level of awareness and that depth of information. So it's a very beautiful process. And so if you don't already have a yoni egg, you can get that at my website, holisticyoni.com. And if you're not really sure where to start building your holistic yoni care practice, I have something for that too. I have a free quiz. You can go to holisticyoni.com/archetype quiz. Or you know what, just screw all that. Just go to holisticyoni.com and you'll see the quiz. It's like on the website. You can't miss it. And this is a free quiz. It's just answer 10 quick questions, and it's going to tell you your sacred feminine archetype. This talks about your life path based upon your personality and how you answer the questions. It tells you about what your greatest gift is and how to really bring that out through your yoni care practice, what your biggest challenges in life, some ways to get over that. What is your lesson? What are you here to learn? The goal of this quiz is really to help you bring forth your light and allow that to shine even brighter. And so I put a lot of time in tweaking, and I'm always revising and trying to make this better for you all. So even if you don't want a yoni egg, it doesn't matter. Go take the quiz. It's a lot of fun. You'll learn a lot about yourself. And I also have an extended report for all of the archetypes that is available in my shop. but you're going to get enough to get you started, even if you choose not to get the full report. So go to holisticyonicare.com, and this is going to help you to cultivate a yoni care practice that is more suited to you, because different things work for different people. So that is embodiment. We talked about awareness, desire. We talked about empowerment. We talked about how to embody all of this information to start moving forward, start making decisions based upon standing in our power. And the final thing I want to talk about is to connect. That is the final stage. So we are not islands, and we're not designed to do this alone. Women have been gathering for eons because there's something about the connectedness of our yonis, where there's a portion of your feminine wisdom that you can only get through those connections. A woman will say something, do something, there's always just this information exchange, right? And so when we gather, not only can we learn from one another and support one another, but it also helps us to connect with the divine feminine. If you are someone who didn't have a very good relationship, maybe with your mother growing up, right? This is going to make it maybe a little more challenging for you to have that connection with other women. And so sisterhood is one way that we start to heal the mother wound, right? Or as some would call it, the sister wound. You literally, if gathering with other women is the least appealing thing to you, that's why you should do it. Do it anyway, because this is going to open you up to a whole new level of self-awareness. There's just something magical and amazing that happens. And so there's a few ways you can do this. Of course, there's tons of groups online. There's things you can do in your community, like meetups and things like that. You can also come over to my website. I have actually started a virtual community at holisticyonicare.com/group. We used to be on Facebook, but I can't do Facebook anymore. So I literally built an entire social media community into the website. And so you can join that for now. It's free to sign up. And so I welcome women who want to just connect, learn more about your yoni, learn more about yourself. In time, as we build the membership, I will be offering monthly gatherings and also a book club. So I'm super excited about that. But for now, just welcoming people together so that we can be a support to one another as we are emerging through this reawakening of the divine feminine. I know that's a term that's thrown around a lot, but I mean, seriously, I hope you can feel it now. It's all around us. Women are coming to a point where the light is getting shown on injustice against women, where women have been suppressed. And this is literally an opportunity for us to not sit back and watch and wait for some miracle to happen. No, this is a call to power, a call for you to step into your power, a call for you to start living the life that you know you were born to live, to do the thing that lights you up, not the thing that makes the most money or the thing that makes the most sense based on your past record of whatever. You know, everything that has brought you to this moment has prepared you for your destiny. And your destiny is not based on a bunch of shoulds or principles. It's based upon your desires and your soul's essence, your mission for coming into this life. So this video is getting super long. I'm going to go ahead and wrap this up with a brief reading. I actually shuffled the cards before I did the video, and 3 fell out before I even had a chance to ask. Well, I had already kind of asked my question, and I was going to pull these on the air. So I just laid the 3 of them here. So the first question I had is, what is emerging for us right now in this moment? And this is what I got. Imrama. I have no idea what Imrama means, but where are you being called to journey to? And this is huge. So I'm trying to make this so it's not blurry. There's a woman standing in water, okay? Water representing the feminine. Look at that. And then there's all these like little places she could go. She could go here, there, but then there's this beautiful archway here. And then there's the cosmos. There's these stars here. And so she's connected to her subconscious. She's connected to her desire nature. And she's not looking around and behind her. She is going forward. Her hands are down. She is surrendered. To be in your feminine is to surrender, okay? Surrender to what is. When we surrender to what is, this actually puts us more in touch with our power because we're not going against the current of life based on a bunch of fear and based on what other people think we should be doing. When we are surrendered, we're actually in the flow. And so this lady is unbothered. Look at her with her white hair. Makes me think of this kind of crone energy. She's guided by divine wisdom. So where are you being called to journey to? I invite you to take that one to your journal, journal about that as this full moon is about to appear on Sunday. This is the beginning of this illumination, right? Something is coming to fruition. Something is manifesting. And so what is it that's manifesting? Birthing a new age, okay? Again, there's the cosmos, all the stars, and this woman is standing inside of a circle of stones. She is grounded in her awareness of who she is. And she has her arms reaching up to bring in that illumination. And so here we had someone who's surrendered, right, to the feminine. This is someone who is literally creating a whole new world. It says birthing new creations, dreaming a new world into being. Okay. And what do we need to know to support us along this path? Akasha, your guidance is divinely guided. Your guidance is divinely guided. So think about what your guidance might look like. Are these friends, people coming into your life? Are these, it could be just signs, omens. Trust that. But we have to be careful, right? We have to have our boundaries. Keep your feet on the ground. She's not just floating in space. She's on the ground in a circle of stones, right? So we're still grounded and rooted and centered in our truth. But we're trusting in the signs, right? With wisdom and discernment. And this is so blurry. I wish I could get a better picture. But this woman is walking along this, it's almost like a glass-like floor, again, going through this arch, right? And she's come from this kind of black and white world into this technicolor kind of vision of where she's headed next. And so, your guidance is divinely guided. The only way you're going to know what to identify as your guidance, because there's a lot of people chattering, there's a lot of ideas, there is a lot of propaganda, right? How do we know what's guidance and what's just noise or what's trying to pull us off path? This is where your holistic Yoni care practice comes in. There are certain things where there's no cookie cutter answer. There's no books for that. You have to be tapped into your divine feminine essence. And that's by connecting to yourself first. You come first. And when you do that, that wisdom that you need, you'll be able to identify those sources of guidance, and you'll be able to know is someone aligned or not. So I want to go back to this grand air trine right now. We have a trine between Venus today, Saturn, and the North Node. This is our ability to connect with people who are on our path, on our destiny. So your relationships right now matter more than ever. Who are you really connected with? And do you want to be on your path with these people, I don't know, for the next 20 years or so? That's really something to think about. And so as this lunar cycle comes to its fullness on Sunday, I really invite you to go within, tap into your desires, trust your body, do a body scan when you think about your relation, who you're in a relationship with right now, whether that's a romantic partner or family members, whatever. What does your body feel like when you think about these people? Are you tensing up, or do you feel relaxed? Is there joy? Can you see that we are headed in a similar path? Remember I told you about that divide right now where people are kind of being polarized. Are y'all on the same wavelength, or are you trying to hold on to something that's doing this? And what's that going to look like as things roll out? Is that what you want to stick with for the next 20 years or so? These are questions to ask ourselves at this time. So before I turn this off, I do want to pull one card from the Archangel Michael deck just for advice, okay? So we already have the divine guidance, or your guidance is divinely guided. But what does Archangel Michael say? Boom. Have confidence. Archangel Michael, please lend me your courage and fortitude. Help me to realize that I am one with all that is divine, wisdom, strength, love, creativity, abundance, and health. Allow me to feel confident and peaceful about myself in all ways. Okay. Now look at that. This is I guess this is a picture of Archangel Michael. But look at that sword. Look at that shield. Okay. Does he look like he's playing right now? No. He's ready to cut some cords of stuff that is not aligned. He means business. And this is a reflection of the energy that is required of us right now. Have confidence. Don't doubt yourself. If there's something that you want to do that makes your heart sing, go for it. Trust that your needs will be met, that you will be provided for, but you got to put some skin in the game. You got to take a risk and put yourself out there, because if you keep hiding in the shadows, not speaking your truth, not living up to the desires in your heart, you're never going to feel like you'll never be able to feel empowered. You'll never know what it feels like to really live in your full power and purpose, right? And of course, there's always time to make new decisions and take second chances. But this is a very powerful portal open right now, is what I'm trying to say. With this Grand Trine energy, there's another Grand Trine that's going to hit on Sunday. Take advantage of this energy. If there's something you want to change in your life, this is it. So suit up, ladies. Grab your sword, grab your shield, make some heads roll if you need to, and make a declaration to the universe. This is what I want, and this is where I'm going, come hell or high water. This is what my soul says to do next. And it all starts with Yoni care. So that's it for today's Venus Temple Friday. I hope that you have enjoyed this message. I will be back next Friday. I'm not going to do it live. I'll probably do it pre-recorded. It will be shorter than this. Thank you so much for hanging out with me. I hope that you got something out of this message. I hope that you will take what I said about the Lilith archetype, take what I said about your connection to the feminine, and do a little bit of journaling. Take time, and if you're not a journaler, that's right. That's all right. Just take time and sit in silence and contemplate what I've said, and make sure that you are looking around at everything in your life right now, that it's accounted for, and that you are truly aligned with what you want. Because if you're not aligned with what you want, how would it feel to be stuck with whatever you got for a while going from now? This is your opportunity where a portal is open to put the people in your life, the resources that you need to go ahead and move in the direction of your power and your purpose. So own it. Love yourself fiercely. Own your story and say yes to you. Namaste.